What the hell is with kidney beans? It's the worst damn name ever. It's redundant. Oh, they're kidney beans because they're shaped like kidneys? So is literally every other fucking bean. There's nothing special about that. That's like saying it's the four-wheeled car. All of them have four wheels. They're all like that. Lima beans, shaped like kidneys. Pinto beans, shaped like kidneys. Brown beans, shaped like kidneys. They're all shaped like kidneys. Kidney bean, worst name ever. Next to Sean, maybe.
Ouch. Do you like kidney beans, though? What's your favorite type of bean?
Black beans.
You know, you're a black bean guy, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Well, I don't mind the old kidney bean. That's me, folks. Hey, before we get into too much jargon, Mashup 93, the Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, the Dougie.
There we go. There it is. There it is. I mean, are you sure you want to talk? Are you sure you want to talk? Oilers right now?
Couldn't help myself.
You sure you want to talk Oilers this week, Sean?
Couldn't help myself. Okay. Mashup 93.
No. You wanted to bring it. Okay, all right. Well, what happened with the Oilers this week?
Well, we didn't tie a league record winning streak, if that's what you mean. We lost to Vegas. We beat Anaheim. We lost to LA. Like things happen, Twos. Things happen.
It's the way she goes.
Doesn't take anything away from Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
I will say, to your credit, that's the biggest line anybody's had in the Oilers locker room since Grant Fuhr left.
Mashup 93. Okay. I couldn't help myself. Couldn't help myself, folks. I knew he was going to get fired up about this. Mashup 93 brought to you by AMC Electrical. That is Drew McKay, Rocky Mountain House, or close to it, I should say. You may recall he was just on the first ever Guardian Blue Collar Roundtable, episode 577. And AMC started back in 2005. Here's Drew's words. I went back on emails and I was like, I remember him having just this great line at the end. So he was looking for people, right? Like everybody's looking for people to come work for him. So he said AMC is looking for hardworking individuals. There's no free lunch, but if you work hard and make yourself a valuable asset by always expanding your skill set, you'll never be out of work. Ideally, these people would love freedom, enjoy the outdoors, and possess an instrumentation or electrical ticket. They'd also would also need to understand that there is no room in this part of the world for that woke liberal mind virus, and those on Booster 5 need not apply. I was like, I'm just going to read Drew's words. And a little tiny more on AMC Electrical. They supply electrical and instrumentation services, as well as automation. They provide the equipment and the expertise to allow their customers to view and control their wells and facilities, compressors safely, and in many cases remotely. AMCelectrical.ca. What did I miss, Twos?
You missed nothing. The guy's an absolute beauty. I'm sure he'd be great to work for. If the commute wouldn't be an absolute bastard, I'd probably take him up on it.
Yeah, and he is an absolute booty. And a shout out to Drew because
he's a booty.
A booty. It's just showing how my name's tonight.
Yeah,
it's just showing how my
him go, but love to watch him leave.
I'm just saying, Twos is gonna pick me apart tonight because I got some names in this mashup that are just like, oh, that's gonna be bad. Anyways, I was telling Twos before we started. So the Tucker Carlson show. One of the dads from my daughter's hockey team was outside, and I guess there was a dad and a daughter selling little keychains. Okay, and he got talking to him. Somehow it came up where he was from, and he's like, "Oh, my favorite podcaster's from there. Yeah, Sean Newman." And he's like, "He coaches my son's hockey team." He's like, "Here." So he gave him one of these. Okay, so it's a little keychain, and it's got that on the one side, and then it's got drink box water bottle sort of thing. Anyways,
yeah, it's a jerry can.
It's a jerry can.
And I know of this person. I can't remember. They came up in a Twitter conversation or something like that. But the thing about it was how it came up was that basically anytime I'm going to and from Lloyd, I stop in at the Whistle Stop in Mirror, Alberta.
Yeah.
and they sell them there. And so there's one time.
Oh, they
where-
sell them there.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. We got already with oh, David Parker throwing a love you
David
guys up.
Parker says, "Love you guys." David Parker, who is a trans fat phobic, according to recent stories on the internet.
I'm like, he must be having a good night. Throw out a love you guys at the start of the show. Well,
Thanks,
David,
man.
top of the evening to you. We got
Love
a
you
lot
too,
to
man.
cover tonight. Got a lot to cover, Twos. Hey, can we start just with our update now? It's the Coots 2, 729 days. We should probably pull this up. This is Jason Levine, Major Coots update. Lysak and Morin have taken a plea deal, and Tony Olenek and I'm forgetting the fourth.
I don't know the other person's name.
Well, isn't that terrible, folks? Somebody comment and give us the other name. I'm spacing on it right now. And then I lost the tweet. What?
Anyway,
There we go. Chris Lysak pled guilty to Criminal Code 95, possession of a loaded firearm, and Jerry Morin pled guilty to Criminal Code 88, possession of a weapon. Neither pled guilty to Criminal Code 465, 1A, conspiracy to murder, or 431C, mischief.
Yeah, so the conspiracy to murder a police officer charges were dropped, and they eventually got them for improper storage of a firearm. They spent 2 years in jail for improper storage of a firearm.
And we'll be sure to bring this up over and over again, week after week, as people are let out for probably more heinous crimes than that, I would assume. Yes, Twos? I assume that's going to play out over the next year. I just have this funny feeling like 2024 is going to give us ample opportunity to explain how two of the Coots 4, anyways, have, been screwed hard.
Very thoroughly.
Yes, by the justice system. The other thing we want to bring up is judge denies Crown's application and excludes the word occupation from judicial notice in Ontario's in his oral ruling February 8th, 2024. The word occupation as description of the Freedom Convoy has been barred from being used in judicial notice in Ontario. This means the term occupation cannot be used in court as a statement of fact without providing further evidence. So there's some interesting going on in the court.
The judge basically told him to fuck off with calling it an occupation.
Now, Twos and Clyde's excellent adventure. Where do you want to start with this? Do you want to start with the going over the interview, or do you want to bring up Marty's website?
Okay, well, I was on Clyde Do Something show last Friday, and it was awesome. It was an absolute blast. We talked for hours, and then when we were done, we stayed up drinking beer all night and chatting about this, that, and everything else. But it went phenomenally well. We both had each other howling for hours and talked about all sorts of things. And then at some point, I can't remember exactly how it came up, but we had said something about websites or something like that. And I think I said, I don't have one for 222 minutes. And, oh, you should. And then, wouldn't it be funny if we got websites of friends of ours and just fucked with them? And I'd suggested, just as an example, Marty Up North. And have you looked at this, Sean?
Well, I opened it very briefly because you told me not to look at it. So I'm like, welcome to Cooking Vegan. Well, I know just the headline, and I listened to that part of the interview. So I'm kind of like, I kind of get the premise because I'd listened to what you guys were talking about, but I haven't dug into it.
Okay. So basically, scroll down. So what we're looking at is a website from martyupnorth.com or .ca, and the avid outdoorsman hunter Marty Up North, somebody bought the domain and turned it into a vegan recipe website. And so there's all these vegan recipes and pictures of vegan foods all the way down.
And it says, just kidding, I hate vegan dishes, or at least I assume. Reach out to 222 minutes on Twitter for recipe updates. Not made with permission of Marty Up North. Just the jokes. Blame Twos. So
this is not my fault. This is not my fault. But just the sheer hilarity of taking martyupnorth.com and turning it into a vegan recipe website was just phenomenally hilarious.
Basically, you're having way too much fun, and 2's
And then
wanted everybody
somebody,
to know.
yeah, well, I didn't do this. This was a listener. This is somebody who tuned in and thought that was a great idea. I think they're right. So anyway, check out.
You haven't found out who it was?
Well, no, I mean, I know who the Twitter handle was, but I don't know the person.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. All right, Bell. Let's talk Severance. Bell Media is ending multiple television newscasts and making other programming cuts after its parent company announced widespread layoffs and the sale of 45 of its 103 regional radio stations. The memo said weekday newscasts at all CTV stations except Toronto would end. It is also scrapping its 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. newscasts on weekends at all CTV and CTV2 stations except Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa. Bell is also ending evening programs, The Debate this hour and Top 3 tonight on CTV news channels, which will be replaced by a 4-hour news broadcast on weeknights beginning at 6 p.m.
A 4-hour news broadcast.
Here you got Joe Warmington saying, it's brutal what's happening in Canada, tens of thousands of being laid off. Here's some of the companies doing so in January, all good people as well. Xerox, 15%, Unity, 1,800 jobs, Twitch, 500 jobs, Amazon, Google, Dehumidified Air Solutions, Discord, Indigo, and it went on and on and on. This
BlackRock's doing layoffs. You hate to see bad things happen to bad people. And so, yeah, it's, and this is, so there's so many examples of how these people suck at their job or they're not interested in telling the news. I don't know if you guys saw the W5 special they did on the Freedom Convoy, but it was easily the most dishonest bit of journalism I have ever seen in Canada. And that is saying quite a fucking lot. So here's an example from Corey Morgan, where you've got this CTV Calgary post that says Calgary students join walkout to protest province's proposed gender policies. And it's all old people. There's a dude with a full-on beard. This is all adults. And they're talking about a school walkout. So either they're not trying or they're really stupid. But either way, they don't deserve to have their jobs anymore. And like this stuff is just, it's going the way of the dodo, Sean. This is, I would call it failed media. And, legacy media is just a little bit too gentle. They have failed. And rather than calling things like this alternative media, I think it's probably safe to say at this point that we are what you might call modern media. And that's not me just, jerking myself off. I think that's pretty fair.
Corona is a fighter.
Toronto.
God, I can never pronounce it right. Gina Carano is filing a lawsuit against Lucasfilms and Disney. And then here's a couple of different things from what she tweeted. Looking with your own eyes at what I posted. And folks, we're talking about the chick who was in the Mandalorian.
People DeLorean.
Yeah, and People DeLorean. That should be a shirt. Look with your own eyes at what I posted and ask yourself. This is her tweeting them. For example, where did I compare Republicans to the Jewish people in the Holocaust? I didn't. Ask yourself why they were calling me a racist. Was there any merit behind that or history of it whatsoever? No. Look at what I was called, a transphobe, for making droid noses from Star Wars. Beep, bop, boop was obviously directed to the online bullies and did not in any way denigrate transgender people. A couple of months ago, she went on later on. A couple of months ago, Elon Musk tweeted that if you've been fired from using the platform X for exercising your right for free speech, he would like to offer these people legal representation. Quite the noble offer, but never in my wildest dreams would I have thought anyone would take on my case against Lucasfilm and Disney. Still, I did respond back. I think I qualify, and thousands of people agreed, but I did not expect anything. To my surprise, a few months ago, I received an email from a lawyer who had been hired by X to look into my story and many others. Turns out, after sending them as much information as I could gather these past few months, my now lawyers and X believe wholeheartedly in my case and are moving forward.
Yeah, so this is perfect. This is the kind of stuff that you love to see, where the last bastion of free speech is helping her stand up and fight back against getting fired off of a show, which would have been fine on its own, but they specifically said it was because they didn't like her social media posts. And so rather than just having sort of just the bland boilerplate saying nothing specific, like if anybody listening ever has to fire anybody, the secret is to just say nothing, as little as possible. Just we need to part ways, and that's it. Because anything else you say has the potential to come back and bite your ass.
Twos, we got to let you go. It's everything you said on the mashup for like the last 100. Fair.
See, and this is it's malicious malicious intent. It's brutal. We haven't even done 100 of them. We've only done 92 of them. He's lying. He can't. Yeah.
The mashup effect. EVs have been declining. Rowan Atkinson has been blamed in evidence submitted to the House of Lords for the plunge in sales of electric cars. The Mr. Bean actor described the green machines as a bit soulless in a comment piece he penned in June last year. The Lords Environment and Climate Change Committee has since been told the actor was partly to blame for damaging public opinions on electric vehicles.
So if anybody wants to go back through the archives, there was an episode, I don't know, maybe about 50 weeks ago or something like that, where we talked about how Mr. Bean himself was shit talking EVs. That guy who drove that tiny ass car, like, this isn't what I signed up for. And he was disappointed with how they went for him. And so he spoke about it publicly. And now he's being blamed for the declining sales of electric vehicles in England, and the government is specifically mad at him for the public not buying enough electric vehicles.
It's fucking wild times, dudes. When they'll throw literally, not because the plan sucks.
Yeah,
it's because Mr. Bean literally said,
yeah, the guy who says nothing ever decided that he wanted to say something about this. And it's his fault for speaking up and not the EV's fault for sucking. All right. Zane Southgate, Rowan is a dyed-in-the-wool car nut. Well, I don't know about that specifically, but you are the resident expert on these things.
Heat pumps don't pump enough heat. This is CBC PEI. I just wrote down the headline, and it said heat pumps need to be kept from freezing. Experts warn in wake of major storm.
CBC is doing this PSA about how basically the heat pumps need some special care, and you got to look after them and make sure that they stay warm enough to actually warm anything up
and get the snow out of the way of the intake.
Grudgingly admitting that they're not everything that they've been pretending they were. Oh, and despite the fact that the Liberals were talking about that program being a smashing success last week, Blacklock said that there have been exactly 80 people who've gotten it so far, which is a very small number in a country of 40 million.
Of course, Blacklock's breaks that. God,
Every
I love
time.
this too. The NDP are not a serious party. I don't know if people saw this, but here we go. An NDP bill is seeking to criminalize the promotion of fossil fuels and prescribe jail time, even for Canadians who say scientifically true things, such as how burning natural gas is cleaner than burning coal. C-372, also known as the Fossil Fuel Advertising Act, was tabled Monday as a private member's bill by Charlie Angus, the MP for Timmins, James Bay, and longtime member of the NDP caucus. Angus defines promotion so broadly that it could technically apply to something as simple as a Facebook post or even as an I love you or I love Canadian oil and gas bumper sticker. And then I was kind of curious. So I went into the Actus and I just copied a couple things and threw it here so that you can do whatever you have with it. Part of it said, whereas air pollution caused by fossil fuel leads to millions of premature deaths globally, including tens of thousands of premature deaths in Canada alone, and is a major cause of cancer, respiratory illness, adverse pregnancy outcomes, children's disease, and cardiovascular symptoms. At times, I thought I was talking about the vax, but that was just me. I kind of went to a different place for a second. Yeah. It is prohibited.
Maybe we could pass a law speaking about that.
Maybe. I don't want to put my tinfoil hat on here for too long. It is prohibited for a person to promote a fossil fuel related brand element, or the production of a fossil fuel. And further down, that's what it's talking about. Mm-hmm. Every producer who contravenes Section 6, so that was Section 6, is guilty of an offense and liable. Every person other than a producer who contravenes Section 6 is guilty of an offense and liable on summary of conviction to fine exceeding $500,000. And the part I missed in there was up to $1 million or 2 years in jail for a producer. You're just like, oh, this was tabled. This is insanity.
It's absolutely ludicrous. I mean, think about it. If you just said something as simple as the groceries got to the store on a diesel truck, and we wouldn't have groceries in the store if it wasn't for diesel trucks. Jail. This plastic bottle was made with petroleum products. Jail. This medical equipment is made using medical product or using petroleum products, and it was paid for with the revenue from the petroleum industry. Jail.
2's, you sound kind of depressed. Would Maid help? We could probably offer you Maid. You could just see how this all just trends nicely.
Yeah.
Eh?
Except, all right, well, they'd have to do renewable energy powering the machine, in which case I'd live forever. Because if they said, oh, well, we can offer you Maid, but it's ran on natural gas generators in, wherever the hell the grid does it, I'd be like, well, I mean, that sounds really interesting, but now you have to get in the tank with me because what you just said was super fucking illegal.
You imagine killing a guy by electrocution on renewable energy?
Solar. It just
Can you just
like,
stop?
I feel a tingle. I feel it. This tickles.
I don't know why that's so funny.
I don't know why none of us have ever thought of it yet, but it's perfect. That's genius.
Yeah. All right, I'm supposed to be pushing a button here and moving on. Oh boy. Charlie Angus is batshit. Yes. Oh man. I just can't imagine trying to kill somebody with renewable energies. I mean,
birds, yes, but yeah, people know.
Safe supply of BS. Here's the National Post view. Okay, headline once again: the safer supply farce is unraveling. I took one. We've been talking about this thing now for several weeks, and I don't know. There's probably a whole bunch of it that you could read. I said it. This was close to the end of the article. It said, it's clear that safer supply, at least as it currently exists, simply cannot go on. It is irresponsible to perpetuate an evidence-free experiment that has shown no signs of success. Overdose deaths only continue to climb, and which has already irreparably harmed communities, drug users, and children. That's a National Post article. That's basically what it's summarizing.
At what point do we say, hey, actually, yes, everything they're saying is correct? It's funny how when you have one side of the argument is just all emotion. It's just, whoa, pulling at heartstrings and trying to scare you. And then the other side comes in with numbers and data and statistics. This may be a far-right conspiracy, but I feel like the people with numbers, data, and statistics tend to have stronger arguments than the ones who try and scare you. And so that's what this was talking about, how when these statistics were first being presented, and even when Polyev talked about them in the House of Commons, he was just being written off as just a crazy person. But the numbers don't lie, and it's the only people this is good for is coffin manufacturers. Really?
Terrorist takes the other easy way out. Global news. Edmonton City Hall shooting suspect makes first court appearance. I think we're all paying attention to this because the guy literally is on camera shooting up City Hall and had a Molotov cocktail. And, and so a 28-year-old man, Bazani Savar, accused of firing a gun inside Edmonton City Hall this week, wore an orange jumpsuit when he appeared in court via CCTV from Edmonton Remand Center on Thursday. I don't know how much more do we have to talk. The
point is that some of the charges against him have been dropped, and that this is a very interesting way to describe somebody who tried to perform a terrorist attack, but just sucked so much that he fucked it all up.
Yes, that's basically what the article was talking about.
Which he's straight up fucking guilty of, which one of them was illegal possession of a firearm. They're like, oh yeah, we're not going to charge him with that. You literally have him on camera.
On camera shooting up the place.
Shooting said firearm.
Not good enough. Two's
Like
just
how
not good
much,
enough.
what's like your probability of conviction, I feel like would be very fucking high because you just be like, is this the crazy person with the manifesto who's firing this weapon
Nah, not enough
in the
video
camera?
evidence. We needed an illegal wiretap or something.
Oh yeah, plenty of those.
The hidden cost of movies. Camille, Nanyahani. Oh man, here we
Not
go.
gonna work here no more.
Opened up about the mental toll of promoting a movie with harsh reviews, saying this week he ended up seeking a counselor after completing the Eternals press circuit in 2021. Does anybody recall that movie? No, because nobody saw it. The
I do.
reviews were bad, and I was too aware of it, Nanyahani said. Released in 2021, Eternals currently holds a 47% on Rotten Tomatoes, making it one of Marvel's worst reviewed entries in the cinematic universe. It's because nobody watched the bloody thing. Twos watched it.
I watched it. It sucked. I just think it's, imagine making a movie so bad that when people tell you what they think of it,
You have
it
PTSD.
cuts you so deeply that you have to go seek out counseling. Well, what'd you think of it? Well, here, let me fucking tell you. And then an hour later, you got to call a shrink. Maybe if that's the kind of level that the movies that are being made are at, we might want to look at doing something slightly differently. But maybe that's just me.
Madagascar cutting off the dicks. This could have easily been happy news too, as I might add. Madagascar's parliament has passed a law allowing for the chemical and, in some cases, surgical castration of those found guilty of the rape of a minor. You don't say.
Mm-hmm.
Parliament in the Indian Ocean Island nation of 28 million passed law on February 2nd in the Senate. The upper house approved it last week. Justice Minister Landy, oh boy, here we go. Mobilationania Randramina, like I wish I could show this name. Said its necessary move became an increase at, I don't mean to make light of it. That is just one heck of a name.
Yeah, okay, instead of cutting dicks off, maybe he could cut a few letters off.
Moved because of an increase in cases of rape against children. In 2023, 600 cases of rape of a minor were recorded, she said, and 133 already in January this year. Surgical castration will always be pronounced for those guilty of raping a child under the age of 10. According to the law's wording, cases of rape against children between the ages of 10 and 13 will be punished by surgical or chemical castration. The rape of minors aged 14 to 17 will be punished by chemical castration. We want to protect children much more. The younger the child, the greater the punishment.
I'd say that's pretty fair. I'd be really curious to hear what somebody from the NDP thinks about that. You know, like, I mean, on the one hand, we love cutting people's dicks off, but on the other hand, these are kind of the people who would vote for us.
I want to do something here so people can see what the heck I'm talking about.
I think they know what castration is as a concept, buddy.
No, read that name. Landy?
Landy. What's so hard about that? His name's Landy.
Sorry for the people who are just listening, but that right there. Okay.
His name is Justice Minister Landy Mabolatania Randramanosa.
It just ain't me, folks. It just ain't me. Quebec bans. Quebec bans really small forest fires.
Technically, it's
technically.
I had this epiphany while I was writing this. I'm like, it is like when you're burning wood, it's a very small forest fire.
Here's Viva, okay? Prohibition on pan frying in ovens as of Wednesday in Quebec. It will be forbidden to use wood burning, pan frying, and stoves as of noon Wednesday in Quebec. For the first time in its history, the city of Quebec is issuing a temporary notice of the restriction in response to deteriorating air quality. Congratulations, Quebecers.
You voted for this shit. So, yeah, it says a bunch of stuff in some weird gobbledygook language that honestly, like, instead of reading that, can we go back to the Justice Minister's name? But anyway, Quebec City is banning using wood-burning stoves. And interesting, I don't know the veracity of this, but there was a bunch of people talking about how a very short time ago, the city required everyone to register their stoves, their wood burning stoves. And then
Correct.
now you fast forward a little ways down the road and they make them illegal. They made you register them and then they
And they
took them
made them
away from
illegal.
you.
We've never seen this playbook before.
No, this is so bizarre. Like, well, and especially the high capacity black assault style wood burning stoves.
BC is finally banning stuff.
If you can't heat your house with 1 or 2 pieces of wood, you shouldn't be doing it.
BC is finally banning stuff. BC's government has ordered that flavored nicotine pouches only be sold from behind pharmacy counters in the province in an effort to prevent youth from becoming addicted. The order signed by Health Minister Adrian Dix means buyers of the pouches, which contain up to 4 milligrams of nicotine, will have to consult a pharmacist. Premier David Eby says the province is doing what it can to prevent children from coming into contact with the hazardous and addictive products. But no worries, you can have free drugs anytime you like.
You can get fentanyl, you can get coke, you can get crack cocaine, you can get meth, you can get MDMA. They literally have a food truck of drugs that was ran by a guy who died of an overdose, surprisingly, in BC. But nicotine pouches?
No.
Won't somebody think of the children?
Newfoundland can't take a joke.
Bye.
I don't know if it. I bye. Can't take a joke. Bye.
A minister. Newfoundland can't take a joke. Bye. Oh, they're just over there on the other side of Canada. Oh yeah, best kind for sure. I know it's for sure. If anybody says I don't know it's for sure, I punch them right in the mouth.
A minister in Newfoundland and Labrador's provincial government has asked VRBO to take down an ad that he claims demeans and chairs folk song in the province. Steve Crocker, Newfoundland and Labrador's Minister of Tourism and Culture, said in a statement Monday that he spoke with leadership at the company and asked to remove the video from their online platforms and television. The ad features the folk song Eyes the Bye over the videos of a barn and shrieking farm animals and shows travelers disappointed in their accommodations. It's rather funny.
Are we going to show it real quick? No.
Actually, I don't have it.
That's fine. No. I mean, I specifically went and found a link to the video for you.
Perfect.
But that's okay. That's okay.
So show it.
So everybody,
show it.
I gave it to you, motherfucker.
Hey, he's got 100 tabs open, folks, and he's giving me a hard time about not showing the video. If you want to show it, show it.
All right.
We're waiting.
So I don't think you're going to hear the audio, but it's just that classic Eyes the Bye song, and they're trying to find all these different they're checking out all these places that they've booked, and they're just full of random farm animals. And so there's a big cock on the screen right now.
It's a good looking
cock.
So
anyway, thank you. And so anyhow, they're just like, oh, we're super offended. And this goes against the it's trying to say that we're just doing this stereotype of Newfoundlanders being super laid back. Like, no, motherfucker, if you're complaining about this, like if they played the last Saskatchewan Pirate while this video was on the Super Bowl, we would all be like, this is awesome.
This is unreal.
This is great. This is wonderful.
I don't agree with Tucson much, folks.
Okay.
Most times I want to argue, but I agree 100% on this.
It turns out the only thing Newfoundland is unwilling to take from the rest of Canada is a joke.
Breaking. Money buys happiness. A paper in 2010 found that the relationship between income and happiness or emotional well-being flattens out at around 75 grand. Well, an updated paper in 2023 found that the most subjects reported increased emotional well-being all the way up to 500 grand in annual income. You don't say.
Yeah, isn't it weird how when you have so much money that you can do whatever you want, the problems kind of just go away? I mean, yeah, you'll have different problems. Like, what do you mean I can't get a private jet in periwinkle blue? It's for me ma, and she's terrible partial to the periwinkle blue. Like, it's it's got its own problems, I guess. But just did it really require all that much research to point out that the more money people have and the more options it gives them and the more freedom it gives them, the less stress it is present in their day-to-day lives.
Can you imagine doing the 2'sDay mashup and making $500,000 a year?
Yes. I'm hoping it's next year.
Man, that'd be something.
Oh,
What a
that'd be
jerk. What a jerk. Now, I'm not talking about twos, folks. This man right here. There he is. The Mississauga man recently won 50 grand playing OLG's scratch game instant 50K, and it's the third time. He's a mechanic at 25 years. Hats off to him. He also won 25 grand with the lottery 2 times in the past. That's the third time he's won.
He's won the lottery 3 times, and yeah, just absolute dick move. Save some for the rest of us, buddy.
I tell you what, blue collar guy, got to hand it off for and it's not like he
obviously I didn't think he was an actual jerk when I wrote that headline.
Right,
it was to be funny because you're just like, oh, what a jerk.
Trudeau
won the lottery 3 times.
He did win the lottery 3 times. Trudeau won. I was Mila won the Looney stick at one of the U7 hockey tournaments. That was a pretty big deal. $50 on loonies on there, and the stick was worth, I don't know, like $200. Like that. That's a pretty big day in a 6-year-old's life.
Yes.
Trudeau wants to kill all the trans people. Like every army ever, the Canadian Armed Forces have always been predominantly male. And as a country with a majority of the population being of European descent, its members have been predominantly white. These facts should be uncontroversial. That's not the society we live in, though. And academics like Mitchell and his colleague Stefan Seidman have insisted that a diversity, equity, inclusion culture change is key to raising recruitment and bolstering retention. The CAF being short 16,000 people currently, though, would say a little bit different. Recruitment hasn't much improved in the past few years either, with new members numbering at 10,300 in 2019-20, 4,300 in 2020-2021, 8,100, so a little spike, and then down to 7,200 last year. Retention is poor, and people are leaving in greater numbers than they are joining.
Isn't it interesting how everybody on the left was all mad at Danielle Smith last week because she's going to kill trans people? She's going to kill trans people. And meanwhile, these guys are going out of their way to get as many of them in the military as possible. This is Operation Human Shield, basically. And for some reason, they're being lauded as doing this wonderful thing for humanity. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I'm not going to speculate on whether it would be a net positive to have fewer trans people around. But this is literally what they're trying to accomplish. Let's take all the trans people, let's ship them over to Afghanistan, and it's one less problem to worry about. And they're doing it because they love them. And get the fuck out of here.
Lesbian teachers have an easier time getting off. Whew.
Well, there was supposed to be 2 articles on this, and then I accidentally deleted the bookmark because it refreshed at the exact time that I hit a button. So we've only got one of the articles.
And it had multiple stories in it. On Friday, Knudsen escaped prison, but is now on parole for the rest of her life, and must register as a sex offender and is forbidden from contacting the unnamed student. The mitigating factor was that the age of the consent in New Jersey is 17. If she breaches parole, she will go to prison. And
so
then
this is a woman who, a pedophile. That did some stuff with a student of hers, and then when she went to jail, she escaped from prison. So, I mean, I like a good heist story. I feel like prison escapes are also pretty good. And then gets caught up, wrangled up again, and then when the sentencing comes down, it's no, you don't have to go back to jail. So she escaped for nothing, basically. Like, imagine how frustrating that would be. Just think about it. Like you're escaping. This isn't some, I don't know. This isn't the Count of Monte Cristo where you just manage to just get off the island and you're fine. You've got to escape a modern goddamn prison. And then you get out and then you get caught and they're like, oh, we're just going to let you go anyway. I wonder if they did that on purpose just to fuck with her. I would.
You would.
I totally would.
Fridge dispute becomes testy.
Did you watch the video?
Yes. Okay. A Michigan, but I thought that reading the article, there's nothing. Okay. I want everybody to buckle up here for a second, because if we get texts all the time. Okay, most people tonight, I assume, are sitting down somewhere and just enjoying this. Okay, but if you're driving, I want you to hold on for a couple of dear moments. If you're working out in the gym, like I know Tarek likes to do, you best sit down. Okay, because this one
Leave
is
your
going to take.
coffee on the table for
Here we
him.
go. Okay. A Michigan transgender woman who identifies as Muslim is suing to get her genitals back. Brianna Kingsley, also known as Zara Breezy Murabid, took ex-boyfriend William Wojciechowski to court after he threw away her surgically removed testicles, which had been rotting in his fridge for over a year. They were my testicles, she quoted. They were my testicles. We're talking about my nuts, Kingsley told the judge. I wanted them in my fridge, not in his, she continued. He denied me access to my own body parts. I don't think that can be quantified. The damages were the loss of these nuts. Wojciechowski revealed that he threw the testicles away in July because they were rotting in my fridge and it was disgusting. I've got food in there I wanted to eat, he told the judge.
So apparently they were together, and when they were together, the one dude gets his nuts cut off, goes through sex change, which just for the sake of brevity, we're going to call it a sex change. We're going to agree that if you just cut your balls off, you automatically become a woman.
Sure.
And then
we're going to disband relief.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then this woman puts her lady nuts in a jar in the fridge. And then they break up, and then she gets a different place and just leaves the jar of lady nuts in the fridge, presumably because now she's a woman, she can't open the jar. And so then this guy finally, after a year, says,
hey, I'm getting rid of these nuts. I
got this old chunk of lettuce in the corner of the crisper that's gone off, and there's some cilantro over here that's turning brown, and these nuts have changed nationalities.
These nuts are making me thirsty.
Anyway,
isn't that Seinfeld? Am I wrong on that?
Oh, I might have missed that one episode.
These pretzels,
Oh, yes,
that's what it is. These pretzels are making me thirsty. I don't know.
So anyway,
it was very clear in the article, too, that it was in a mason jar. It was in a mason jar, not in the bio. He was all upset because it wasn't a biohazardous material. It was in a mason jar, sitting in the fridge, and they were rotting.
Yeah. And so he finally throws them out. And then this person who identifies as Muslim, what a weird thing to say. Like, why not just say that this new woman has changed religions? Like, oh, I identify as a Muslim now. Like, no. It's like if you move somewhere and you're like, okay, well, I identify as a Saskatchewanian now. Like, no, you are one.
I like Derek Omenauer. No words. I just have no words. And when I started reading this, I'm like, you want a little humor in the mashup? Oh boy, there you go. That's some humor. There's not much words for what the heck is going on. All you can do is just buzz on.
Like, why not just put them in the freezer?
That's acting like it's a rational thing to put your nuts, to cut them off, to then put them in a jar, to then be like, I should put them in a freezer. You know what, Twos? I'm going to put these nuts in the freezer. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, imagine how small they were when it got cold. Like, they're twice. You got this giant jar, but then with the shrinkage, like you're in the pool all of a sudden. Oh my god. Okay, let's just move on.
Can we just move on? This week in Captain Obvious. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be going fast, but that story is about as ridiculous as it gets. This week in Captain Obvious. Hospital staffing shortages could be due to COVID-19 vaccine mandates, some experts say. You don't say. You don't say.
Yep.
I don't even think we need to go on. Putin.
Nope, that was it.
Putin, a good word with Tucker.
Putin.
I know. I know what you're getting. I know what you're getting at, okay? What did you think of Tucker Putin? We're going to pull this up.
It was good. It was fun. It was interesting. It was a little bit scary because you listen to that guy, and yeah, he's an evil murderer, right? But he is an absolute fucking shark. And so you think about him on the world stage where he is literally a shark, and Everybody else running every other country right now is a goddamn clownfish.
Well, put him beside Trudeau.
Yeah, he's
Laughable.
walking all over him. Like,
Because we watched Tucker,
Mhm.
and really enjoyed. Think he can handle himself well, but Putin put Tucker in his place about 3 different times at the start.
Oh yeah. Well, just many points throughout. And it's interesting. Actually, Tucker Carlson was on Theo Vaughn's podcast a couple weeks ago, and I just stumbled across it accidentally. And it was really good and really funny and really interesting. It was a different side of Tucker that you don't usually see. And
Sure.
I was like, wow, this is fun. I'd love to sit down and chat with him sometime.
You know,
And yeah.
I was just gonna say about the Tucker Putin interview. You know, the Super Bowl was big, but in my circle, I guess, I don't know. I heard more people everywhere talk
Mhm.
about that interview. Like before it came out, like, "Hey, you watching it tonight?" And I'm like, "This is interesting." Like that is when was the last time, and maybe you've stared at the political world longer than I have too.
Mhm.
What was the last interview where you felt there was that much anticipation for a person to interview somebody else on the political stage?
I don't know if there ever has, to be honest. Maybe the first couple interviews with Edward Snowden after he moved to Russia,
Sure.
or
But how many people were
Julian
talking about
Assange.
that? I mean,
Yeah,
don't get me
actually,
wrong.
that's fair.
I understand people were talking about it. I'm not making light
Yep.
of that. I'm
Mhm.
just meaning I walked into the hockey rink. People were asking me, "You
All
going?
anybody wanted to talk about.
You? It's
All
all
yeah.
like you think about that. That is insanity.
Here's the
141
thing is,
million views in the first like 17 hours.
I think that anybody, regardless of what you think about the whole Russia-Ukraine thing, could fairly admit that the coverage of it in Western media has been very one-sided.
Well, yeah,
And
it's
so
been
you've
brutal.
got regardless of what you think, part of you in the back of your head is gonna wanna say, "Well, what else is there that I'm missing?" And he did a great job of laying a lot of things out, and he did a great job of omitting a few things too, if I'm being honest. Uh, but he is the first time that we've had any sort of a quote unquote credible representation of what other people in this conflict think.
I'd just like to point out as we move on, 198 million views on Twitter alone.
Yeah,
Right? That that's that's
that's a
insanity,
lot.
man. ArriveCan is a steaming pile of shit. I don't think we can argue about this. This summarized it pretty good.
Mhm.
Here's Kirk Lubimoff. ArriveCan recap. Okay, it was an 80K app ballooned to 54 million.
Which it could have been way less than 80K too, by the way. That's like 80K in government money.
But sure, $80,000 is what they had earmarked for this ArriveCan app, which we all
Mhm.
thought was bogus anyways. It ballooned to $54 million.
Mhm.
Auditor General now says the true cost is 60 million and could be more. GC Strategies, who couldn't explain what they do for a living, got 20 million. Auditor General says the true cost is impossible to determine because of such poor record and financial management. That's how the public sector and liberals treat taxpayer dollars. Can't argue with that. Over 1,700 emails deleted by a bureaucrat in regards to ArriveCan and an obvious cover-up attempt. There are allegations of bribes and wining and dining around the contracts. Destruction of evidence, such blatant misuse of taxpayer dollars isn't considered criminal by the Liberals. Liberal, NDP, and Bloc have tried to prevent an investigation into ArriveCan app.
Every single thing there is totally verifiably true. Like, I get the fact that Hillary Clinton got away with deleting a whole bunch of emails, but she'll kill you if you do anything about it, right? Some random ass bureaucrat who takes it upon himself to cover up this bullshit. Like that guy, I don't know exactly what the best way to get to the whole bottom of this whole ArriveCan app is, but I say you start right at the bottom, the lowest level person that you could verifiably attach to this. And you say, prove to us that this fuck up wasn't your fault. And then he'll throw his boss under the bus. And then you say that and you keep going and you keep going and you keep going until you get somebody who has no way of proving that they got direction from somebody more important to them to fuck it up, and then you take that guy and you tell Madagascar that he is a child sex criminal.
And just because he was on last week, and I would, in saying that, we got lots of time for Franco Terrazzano. He'd also tweeted out,
Yes.
Feds hand out $342,929 in bonuses to executives working on ArriveCan debacle. Ultimate example of failing government executives rewarding with taxpayer-funded bonuses. So not only was it a debacle, they gave themselves bonuses on top of the debacle, and it's just complete ineptitude.
I mean, it went roughly 7,500% over budget.
Make Canada great again. Trudeau says that what Pierre Poilievre, quote, is proposing to do is to make Canada great again, and that is not what Canadians want.
He said that in Parliament.
In Parliament.
And then show, for everybody watching, show the picture of the lady behind him cringing when he says that.
Twos, would I have that up? Why would I have that up? I tell you what, give me a sec here, folks. We'll pull it up. Twos, carry on, filibustering, if you would.
All right, well, or I can just show it to you because I don't fuck around. There is her, and I can't remember her name, but there is her cringing when he says the Canadians don't want Canada to be great again. Nope, we want this shit show that I've been leading, and that's all Canadians want. And he has no idea. I love it when this dipshit goes off script. This is a classic example of why I'm all for free speech.
Here's my question to you on this lady, with the lady pulled up. When he says, Pierre Poilievre says, I'm going to read it back, is proposing to do is to make Canada great again. As soon as he says that, she cringes. Is it possible she agrees with him and goes, ooh, that's a terrible line for Canadians because she's thinking of Donald Trump? Is that possible?
I think that
Am I trying to rationalize this out?
I think you're trying to rationalize it too much. Let's throw Occam's razor at it. The simplest answer, all other things being equal, is generally correct. She knows exactly what he's capable of when he goes off script. And then he goes off script, and she's like, oh, this is going to be another drink box water bottle sort of thing moment. And she's like, oh, Jesus Christ, not again. And then sure enough, it happens again.
Calgary's unions bought the mayoral election. CBC sucks. The city of Calgary has released the names of donors who gave money to third-party advertisers in the 2020 municipal election as directed by Alberta's privacy commissioner. It sounded like it was a couple of years late. Third-party advertisers, TPAs, promote or oppose candidates or highlight specific issues in an election. In total, there were 176 donors to the 8 registered TPAs. Okay. Calgary Futures received $1.7 million in the years leading up to 2021 election. There were 6 contributors, all from civic unions they rattle them all off. Doesn't matter. So Calgary's Future endorsed numerous candidates in the election, including Jody Gondak, who is obviously the mayor. The other major TPA in the election was Calgary's Tomorrow, which backed candidacy of former councillor Jeff Davison. And I found it interesting. He raised that group raised $422,000 in donations from 176 donors. There was 176 total, and that group had donors from 176, and not nearly the money.
$1.7 million. This is literally a super PAC. This is the Canadian super PAC. $1.7 million, all union funded, backed a specific mayor. Okay. The unions who work for the city had a specific mayor in mind that they wanted to win. They pushed to have the person that they wanted in charge of negotiating their contracts against them. This is they were choosing their quote unquote opponent. Does anybody see anything wrong with this? The NDP loves to say things like, we need to get big money out of politics. Motherfucker, at the municipal level, the only big money in politics is unions. In the Ontario provincial election, 2-3 elections ago, 90% of the super PAC spending was done by unions.
Ireland needs to be less Irish. So there's two different tweets here. One Muslim woman in Ireland is not happy and complains about Irish culture. She finds Irish jokes offensive and says Irish humor needs to change within Irish community. The other one says Muslim woman complains that there are too many Finns in Finland. And I wish I was joking, but I'm not.
Mm-hmm. So I don't think I've ever told you about this, but this one time I was down in Mexico and I was chatting with this lady and her husband who were from Oklahoma. And I'm sure there's lots of great people there, but every single person I've ever met from Oklahoma has been in a dead heat tie for being the stupidest person I've ever met. And so, anyways, I was like, well, how do you like it here so far at the resort? And she goes, yeah, it's great, but there sure are a lot of, and then she looks around, Mexicans here in Cancun. She went to Cancun for a vacation and was complaining about how many Mexicans were there in the country that she was vacationing in.
Correct.
Okay. So, yeah, there's stupid people everywhere. And I don't know. There's not really anywhere I'm going with any of this, but it reminded me of this. I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that outrageously dumb lady that I met. And I wanted to tell that story. So thank you for obliging me.
Marty Undercover. You guys went to the town hall for Alberta pensions, NDP's town hall for Alberta pensions.
Yes.
You got 30 seconds. Just quick Coles notes. How was that?
All right. You could tell even before you got in there that you were going to be surrounded by a bunch of idiots because they all parked like idiots in the parking lot. You go in and you see a whole bunch of bad bangs, like the ones that are just so poorly cut that you know how they're going to vote. Joe Cece sucks as a public speaker. He's got enough room between his front teeth to fit another tooth or two. They tried focusing on the main issue. They did a lot of scaremongering in ridiculous ways that I was just like, there's no way that Danielle Smith is going to institute it in this way because none of us would support it either. There was a gentleman behind us that asked some really good questions. Marty asked some questions. They brushed past them without even answering any of them. But those two guys basically just shut down everything that they were saying. And then I said a little bit at the end where I was like, I'm not going to waste my time asking a question because honestly, you guys have not addressed any of the pushback questions.
And what did they say to that?
Oh, they didn't respond to me either. Weird thing though, at the end of it, there was this woman who was goading this young man who he seemed like one of those guys who was so smart that it almost made him unfunctional kind of thing.
Okay.
And apparently he was a gay man and so wanted to just here, you go talk to these guys. And I think she was trying to set him up for like a gotcha moment where she could be like, look at all these evil, intolerant people, right? Go up to these people and tell them that you're gay and see what they say to you. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to tell you right off the bat that because he was talking about the discrimination that he's faced being a gay man. And I said, I'll tell you right off the bat, if anybody's going to treat you differently based on who you sleep with, they're a dick. Full stop. And then he mentioned that Danielle Smith was taking away their rights. And I was like, well, I'm not sure specifically what you're talking about, but if you could tell me exactly which right, maybe I could discuss it with you. And then she jumped. And so then he kind of goldfishes for a minute. Fair enough. And like nice enough kid anyway, but just told what to think and never actually thought anything. And then she jumps in and she's like, we're not looking for a confrontation. We just wanted him to express and I'm just here. And I'm like, well, fair enough. All right. Well, thank you for coming and chatting anyway. But she just jumped in and you could tell that it didn't go the direction that she had imagined at all. And as soon as it went another way, she was like, oh, no. This is these scary, evil conservatives seem to be quite reasonable. So we better get them to stop talking to them before it infects my friend.
Sitting there with you and Marty would have been something. Trouble brewing for Trudeau. An Ontario brewery that hosted Prime Minister Justin Trudeau this week says it's been inundated with hundreds of hateful messages since then. Trudeau's visited the brewery pantry, or Brewers Pantry, I should say, in Bowmanville, Ontario on Thursday to show support for Robert Rock, the Liberal Party candidate for the Durham federal by-election. The brewery posted a picture from the event and said it was flooded with dozens of negative Google reviews, offensive emails, and phone calls at all hours of the night. And then they had a huge post come out about it, and and everything else. Viva once again hits our feed here because he says, "Has anyone bothered to actually check? Is this the right Brewers Pantry? Because if it is, not only is it getting spammed by negative." Only is it not getting spammed by negative Google reviews, it's getting spammed by positive reviews, seemingly coinciding with their post. It actually received very few reviews at all in the last couple months until this post went viral.
Mm-hmm. And also, this isn't the first time something like this has happened. You remember we covered Pierre Poilievre in a very early mashup, Pierre Poilievre and Steam Whistle Brewery in Toronto, and how that kind of went sideways because everybody was like, oh, why are you having Pierre Poilievre there? And then recently after that, Stephen Del Duca, when he was, this was in the lead up to the Ontario provincial election, Stephen Del Duca was then at that time the leader of the Liberal Party. Here's him at an event where he literally blurs out Coors Banquet to try and get away from this. Look at the picture. Zoom in if you want. Or I think, because you put mine up. Yeah. All right. Look at that. Coors Banquet is blurred out because he doesn't want to get involved with any of this beer wars stuff. So this is something where they took the gloves off first, and then now apparently also it's not terribly true. So there's that. Okay, I want to circle back to the NDP town hall thing. I remembered after we finished, there's a couple things I wanted to point out because I saw some of their tweets about it. So Samir Kayandi was there, and he says, "Thank you, residents of Calgary Southeast who showed up to our pension town hall yesterday. UCP MLAs weren't available to hear what their constituents had to say." So here's a picture of him talking at some point, and then this is a picture of these empty seats that have the names of a bunch of UCP people on it. Here's the funny thing, though. Okay, here's me in the back, and there's Marty in the orange. Those seats were some of the few seats that were actually taken. This is after the event. They set this up. People were sitting in those seats throughout the entire event, and then afterwards they set those up and
staged a photo.
And then staged the photo. And then the other thing is, here's Rocky Pancholi, who's running. She's one of the announced leadership contestants. She says, "I spent the afternoon in a room filled with Calgarians who are passionate about protecting their pensions. We can't let the UCP gamble away Alberta's retirement security and compromise the future we want for ourselves and for our kids." Right off the bat, this place was not packed. You can see on the left-hand side where you're already getting into the empty chairs. She's standing in front of empty chairs. There's like 3 to her other side. Look at the giant stack of unused chairs in the corner in this picture. The NDP are not a serious party, Sean. And furthermore, so I had something to say about it. I said, "It was nice to meet you this afternoon. Thanks for having us, even though we did not agree a couple points. The room was half full at best. About a quarter of us did not agree with you," because we all found each other at the end and started chatting. And there was a lady going around getting signatures for the Recall Jody Gondek petition. It was beautiful. Anyways, I said, please don't conflate attendance with support.
Then at their event, there's people going around getting Jody Gondek. That's amazing. That's amazing.
So you tell me that they had everybody in the room on their side when there's a petition to recall Jody Gondek being passed around?
Certainly not.
Fuck off.
Let's go bunting mental. This is quoted. "My manager, Mark Dean, manages all my social media, and he always does Let's Go Bunting mental. And I always tell him off as no one ever sings it. Then tonight, walking out, everyone was singing."
By the way, this is Stephen Bunting.
Sorry, Stephen Bunting, darts.
Dart player.
I was like, oh my God, every little tweet he sends out is worth it for that moment. If I never play darts again, that moment will live with me until the day I die. He walks out, and the crowd's going absolutely berserk.
Yeah, so he's partway through the World Darts Championship right now, and this hashtag finally caught on, and everybody's losing their minds about it, and I think it's hilarious. So that was our happy news this week.
I tell you, one of the places, before we get to community news, I think going there would be something you'd never forget. You don't need to be any,
A
you know,
dart competition?
yeah, like I don't,
Yeah.
you know, like it's like I don't even know half the rules. You know, I suck at darts. You know, I don't get me wrong. You put a couple pints in me, I'll play some darts, but I
Mhm.
don't know what the heck I'm doing half the time. I can hit the board, but I'm not that great. And yet, I'm like going to that crowd looks like it would be absolutely a time, something you'd never
They
forget.
love it. They love it. Everybody's got signs. Everybody's hammered, having a great time. It's probably a lot like going to see a lacrosse game.
Now, community events. I think this is the big one for the area, especially as this releases on a Tuesday. So if you're listening to this on a Tuesday or tonight, folks, for all you Lloydminster folk, we have our by-election on today, February 13th, as this releases. Tuesday, councils, chambers, city hall from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can go vote. We had our for the kids' sake, led a debate. We had 6 of the 8 candidates show up, and we did 10 questions with them. You can watch that on the For Kids' Sake page, or go to the For Kids' Sake Substack if you're like, I don't know
Where's
who to
the For
vote for.
Kids' Sake page?
Substack, and I can pull it up and throw it in the show,
Okay.
throw it in the comments. But yeah, like that would be a way to at least see what some of the candidates were saying. But yes, today, February 13th, Tuesday, February 13th, by-election in Lloydminster, Council, Chambers, City Hall, 4420 50th Ave, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Go vote.
Now, there's a lot of Newfies in Lloyd, and in Newfoundland, every election is a by-election. Like, oh, going to the by-election. Oh, how's it going there by-election? Oh, it's our by-election.
Other community notes. Slim has put it on our radar that 12th annual PBR at Marwayne Arena, April 12th, 2024, and then June 22nd, Aaron Goodvin and Garrett Gregory going to be doing a concert there. So that's coming up. And I had texted him beforehand, and I'm sorry, Slim, if you hadn't texted. No, there is tickets. Not until February 25th on Eventbrite. So you can't buy tickets yet. Put that in the back of your brain. Twos, you got anything community notes?
Well, there's a fundraiser going on in Swift Current for um, legal costs, believe it or not, for people fighting the
Yes.
government
Yes.
and having small wins here and there, like they're not allowed to say occupation anymore. So you got Eva Chipiak, Tamara Litch, Chris Barber, and Shadow Davis on March 9th.
And I just got a text tonight from Tamara Leach. It's her band playing the live performance
Mhm.
at night. And I should have asked her, because I'm like, normally Tamara and Chris aren't in the same place, right? So obviously having legal counsel, they can be in the same place, is my understanding. So very interesting, because
So,
maybe
so what? Their lawyer's going to play bass or what?
Uh, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, literally, this is Canada right now. So these two folks, of course, have seen each other over the course of the last couple of years, but always with legal counsel. So it should be a fun evening. In Swift Current, I would think, March 9th, that's closing in on us. It sounds like a whole bunch of people are going to be there in attendance. So regardless, I think that would be a fun evening if you can make it. And, I got tons of time for Chris and Tamara, obviously, for what they stood for, what they did.
Absolutely.
And Eva's been on the show. Shadow's been on the show. And yeah, so if you can make it there, I think that would be a lot of fun. It sounds like a bunch of people from Lloyd are going to be heading that way now too. So,
And so if anybody listening has any community events or anything like that,
make
this
sure
isn't some pay-as-you-go thing.
Yep.
If you're doing something for your community like this and you would like to get a larger reach, just reach out. We're happy to talk about it. And anybody at all who wants to advertise any kind of a bond spiel, the answer is yes.
And if you're doing like the world's largest dyno competition, like we just like to be there. We just like to be a part of it.
We're going to make it illegal for you not to tell us. We're going to get Charlie Angus to put that into the new law.
Boys and girls, kids of all ages. That is going to do it for 93. The Ryan Nugent Hopkins of
the Doug Gilmore,
the Dougie Gill. And thanks for hanging out with us on a Monday evening, or if you're just tuning in when it releases on the podcast, a Tuesday for the making. We should point out here over the next week. We mentioned it last week. that here coming in the you're going to slowly see a transition from the 2'sDay mashup to the mashup.
Yep.
We're going to be slowly moving this thing to a weekday in the afternoon is the plan, so that it'll be live streamed and then released immediately after. And we're gonna slowly get away from the late evening. The dairy cartel will be able to tune into it after he milks cows, instead of as he wakes up bright and early to milk cows. So it's gonna be a little interesting that way. That's something to pay attention to. Also, if you're interested in becoming a sponsor of the 2'sDay mashup, you can reach out to as well. We'd love to hear from you. And 2024 off to a banging start here. Mashup 93 in the books. Is anything else that I've missed?
I think you covered it all quite nicely, buddy.
All right, folks.
Thanks.
We'll catch up to you next week.